Before the world knew the names of El Chapo or the Jalisco New Generation cartel, one cartel ruled Mexico's border crossings with fear and absolute power: the Juárez Cartel. At its peak in the 1990s, this cartel controlled the single most important drug trafficking corridor into the United States, Ciudad Juárez, across from El Paso, Texas. This is the story of how the Juárez Cartel rose to power, how it trafficked billions in cocaine and heroin across the border, how it unleashed wars with rivals, and how its empire of blood eventually crumbled. The Juárez Cartel began under the leadership of Pablo Acosta Villarreal, known as El Zorro de Ojinaga, the Fox of Ojinaga. Acosta controlled smuggling routes along the Texas border in the 1980s, moving tons of marijuana and heroin. But the real fortune came when Colombian cocaine producers needed routes into the U.S. After Acosta's death in 1987 during a Mexican police raid, leadership fell into the hands of Amado Carrillo Fuentes, a man who would change the history of drug trafficking forever. Amado Carrillo Fuentes earned the nickname El Señor de los Cielos, the Lord of the Skies. He built the Juárez Cartel into a transnational powerhouse by purchasing a fleet of Boeing 727s, capable of carrying tons of cocaine from Colombia directly into Mexico. Instead of violent outbursts, Amado preferred bribery, diplomacy, and stealth. He established alliances with the Colombian Cali cartel and distributed cocaine into the U.S. through Juárez, controlling an estimated 50% of all U.S. cocaine supply by the mid-1990s. With billions flowing in, Amado transformed Juárez into a fortress of narco power. Entire neighborhoods were funded by cartel money, while luxury homes, nightclubs, and businesses flourished under his shadow. But the golden era had cracks. Rival cartels, the Gulf Cartel and the Tijuana Cartel, wanted control of the lucrative routes. The Mexican government, under U.S. pressure, intensified crackdowns. Still, Amado stayed untouchable, protected by bribes and secrecy. In 1997, Amado Carrillo Fuentes underwent plastic surgery in Mexico City to change his appearance and avoid capture. But something went wrong. He died during the operation, shocking the world. His death created chaos. Without his leadership, the Juárez Cartel fractured. His brother Vicente Carrillo Fuentes tried to take control, but rivals smelled blood in the water. The war for Juárez had begun. After Amado's death, Juárez became one of the most violent cities on earth. The Juárez Cartel battled the Sinaloa cartel, led by Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, for dominance over the border. From 2008 to 2012, Juárez was a war zone. Entire neighborhoods were riddled with gunfire. Executions became daily events, and corpses hung from bridges as warnings. Civilians were trapped in the middle of a cartel battlefield. The Juárez Cartel wasn't just fighting in Mexico, it had vast operations in the U.S. Cocaine and heroin moved across El Paso into cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. American gangs like the Barrio Azteca became enforcers for the cartel, trafficking drugs and carrying out assassinations. The FBI identified Juárez as one of the most dangerous criminal organizations, pouring resources into dismantling its networks inside the U.S., but the money and violence kept flowing. By the mid-2010s, the Juárez Cartel was crumbling. Years of war with the Sinaloa cartel drained its strength. The Mexican military launched operations that captured or killed key lieutenants. Vicente Carrillo Fuentes, El Viceroy, was arrested in 2014. The once mighty Juárez Cartel was a shadow of itself, fragmented into smaller groups fighting for scraps. But its bloody legacy remained carved into the history of Mexico and the United States. The war in Juárez left over 10,000 dead between 2008 and 2012. Families fled the city. Businesses closed. Ordinary people lived under curfews imposed not by the government, but by cartels. Journalists who dared to report on the violence were assassinated. Police officers were executed in broad daylight. The city became a symbol of the cost of the drug war. Today, Ciudad Juárez has recovered somewhat, but scars remain. The Juárez Cartel's rise and fall showed how one city could become the epicenter of a global war on drugs. The cartel also left behind an enduring lesson. As long as demand in the United States remains high, cartels will find a way to supply it no matter how many lives are lost. The story of the Juárez Cartel is not just about drugs, it is about power, greed, corruption, and survival. It is about a city that became a battlefield, a cartel that once rivaled empires, and a man, Amado Carrillo Fuentes, who flew to high and paid the ultimate price. Even in its decline, The cartel's ghost still haunts Mexico's northern border, reminding us that in the war on drugs, there are no real winners, only survivors.